Welcome to Daikaiju Network's commentary on War of the Gargantuas. I am your co-host, Kenton. With me is your other co-host.
Jason, how's it going, peeps? After a 2 month hiatus.
Yeah, Jason being a bum and deciding he didn't want to do anything.
Well, to be exact, I moved into a new place here, as you can see behind me. Just a little bit here, you know.
Well, you know what he actually did is he just turned all the furniture around in his place and made it look like he's in a new place.
From in this kind of the new studio that I have now, uh, cor- just by comparing it from my previous place, I think you can probably fit 3/4 of that living room where I was recording from into this office.
You're going to have to fill that room up so you don't have as many vibrations bouncing off walls.
Well, I know down the road I will kind of get everything built up and stuff. It's gonna take at a slow pace and stuff, but it will get there in due time.
Yeah, but we are here today to just kind of continue podcasting after a 2 month hiatus to kind of make things fun but also easy for us, especially Jason, since he's still moving in. We're doing the War of the Gargantuas commentary. And to kind of let everyone know, we are watching the version that is on HBO Max. If I remember correctly, because the last time I saw this version was like 3 years ago, maybe. Um, if I remember correctly, this version is different from the American edit. This is dubbed, but I think what it did is that it's the Japanese version of the movie dubbed.
Yeah, and to be more specific, it's the Criterion Collection version.
Yes. So it's not the Henry G. Saperstein one, and it's not the full-blown Toho, although in a roundabout way it kind of is, but dubbed. It's kind of
Hmm.
like what Kraken Release did with The Return of Godzilla for
Right.
that dub, where it's the Toho film, but they used an international dub for that movie. So kind of like what we do with all these commentaries. Um, uh, we'll just kind of give a brief sort of, history, personal history that we have with these movies, and then we'll get right into it. Unfortunately, again, like I said, because this is different, anybody who's watching the Henry G. Saperstein one, sadly, it's going to be off, and there's not much we could do about it. Jason doesn't own that DVD, so that's why we're going this route.
Well,
So your
I
best.
probably I probably do the was it classic media, right? Yeah, I do have the version,
Yeah.
but it's boxed away for the time being still.
So now I'm going to have to put in my notes, we're going to have to redo this movie later
No,
down
we
the
don't.
road. We will to match it up.
Whatever. I mean, people can go on to HBO Max whenever they want to. So,
Not everybody has HBO Max though. But yeah, so starting with myself as far as personal history and just kind of my views of the movie over the years. First saw this movie on TNT's Monster Vision back in late November, early December of 1995. And I knew at that time it seemed to be a film that was made by Toho. I didn't watch it originally when it was on television. We, as a family, were out like eating or doing something, and we ended up having to record it. And so we saw it like within the next day or two on the VHS that we used to record it, and I immediately fell in love with it. I did not initially think, and I would have been, let's see, 11 years old at this point. I did not really think I was going to necessarily love this movie. I thought at best I might find it amusing, but I did not expect to love this film. And really, for 26 years now, it is a movie that I love. I adore it, despite the fact that, yeah, Russ Tamblin's acting is very cringeworthy because the guy at the time just didn't care. Um, but this is a film I just adore very, very much. And a lot of it is just because, um, again, you got really good actors in here, minus Tamblyn. he's a good actor, but not in this one. And you just got a fun story. Yeah, it's really goofy and kooky in many ways, but it's fun. You got great effects and miniature work. I mean, this was near the tail end of Toho's golden era of kaiju films, and you still have a lot of the trademarks of just, at least from a special, well, really across the board, from both a special effects directorial and acting standpoint and writing standpoint, of just a fun story, and just a fun movie that, yeah, it seems really goofy and stuff on the surface, and maybe even as you watch it, if you're not a huge fan of this stuff like we are, it probably seems laughably goofy. But I think if you were to sit down and watch it, you'll realize there's still some interesting stuff throughout this film that I think can keep you interested enough to just watch it at least through the end.
Hmm.
um but yeah, I mean, I just love this movie. It's one I've always said it was one of my favorite Toho non-Godzilla films. It's just it's a really good film. I love it. I mean, Akira Ifukube's score is downright wonderful as well. Um, I think I've mentioned it before several times, at least on this podcast over the last maybe couple of years, that the Showa era anymore, more specifically the 50s and the 60s for me, are kind of my favorite era of Toho kaiju science fiction films. And really, just in general, Japanese sci fi monster films, even though some studios at the time were doing like, I forget the studio, and I just watched the movie like a couple months ago, but the studio that did Prince of Space,
Hmm.
um, it's not the greatest looking thing in the world, and it's pretty goofy in many respects, but it still was a lot of fun and very charming in its own right. And I'm not too much of a fan of a lot of the 70s stuff. I'm not saying I hate it. I just think that obviously by that point, with the Japanese movie theater industry having difficulties, and as a result, the studios were suffering as well. Some were even closing down. That you could see, unfortunately, the results of all that on the screen with a lot of stock footage. Um, and again, that's not to say I dislike a lot of those movies. I just am not as drawn to those as much as I am the 50s and 60s era of Japanese sci-fi monster films. And it's the same way for me with the US. In fact, I don't necessarily care for American sci-fi horror films in the 70s. And in fact, movies in America starting in the 70s became really gritty and kind of dour, and things like that, because the economy and just other things culturally happening in the states were just making a lot of people down and negative. And it just was not, to me, the 70s is almost, not entirely, but is mostly an era of American cinema that I avoid. I just don't think a lot of the films are that fun to watch. There are some exceptions, like I'm a huge Rocky fan. The first two Rocky movies were mid late 70s. Um,
Hmm.
but I would take Japanese sci-fi cinema any day from the 70s. But long story short, one of my all-time favorites in terms of giant monster films, and favorite one of my favorite Toho non-Godzilla
Yeah.
films.
Excuse me. Yeah. Basically, my first time was right around the Monster Vision days in the uh, early to mid '90s there, along with Kent. And I would say that probably of the non Godzilla, Gamera, and Khan, and some of those other franchisee films and TV shows, I probably would say that this is also one of my favorite kaiju movies that's outside of those the IPs that I mentioned here just a minute ago, and I really like how things are set up with this movie, as well as the actors that portray both Sanda and Gaia in here. I mean, you got Haru Nakajima playing as Gaia, and I forget who plays as Sanda. There, I would have to take a look, or Ken can probably take a look. But yeah, you get some of the good actors in here. Russ Tamblyn. I mean, yeah, wasn't wasn't his greatest performance, but yeah, but I mean, yeah, you got the household names as far as Japanese
Yu
films.
Sakida.
Okay,
And it's Gyra, not Gaia.
Gyro. Okay, but yeah, just the story, the plots, and as far as the effects in here, there's very little visual effects wise in here. I'd say a majority of the time that they use uh, practical effects uh, basically throughout this entire movie. And yeah, kind of like what you mentioned about as far as like the 60s and 50s sort of Japanese films or eras of the films. They are pretty good, and I even enjoy kind of a lot of the movies from even before that time too, like maybe in the 40s or 30s, pop. I would say also in the 20s too, with a lot of the classic films spawning from those decades and everything. But other than that, yeah, War of the Gargantuas, I would say, outside of the other IPs, is also one of my favorite kaiju films.
All right, with that said, we can get started here. So we both are at the selection screen on HBO Max for War of the Gargantuas. The play is highlighted. And so, again, for those of you who have never joined us for a commentary, I'm going to count down. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, go. When I say go, that's when we'll, go ahead and hit the play button. So, are we ready here?
Yep.
All right. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. And it's got to load.
Well,
We still may
I'm at the Criterion Collection.
Mine's loading. Now the Criterion logo is coming up.
Yeah, I'll stop right at the Janus Films. Pops up, just let me know.
Okay. I probably would be like 15 seconds behind you. Okay, there's Janus.
Okay. And then I hit play too. So then let me transition over to the commentary cam, where you don't see our ugly faces.
I forget there was sometimes a delay, because I think we did HBO Max for one other film at one point, like earlier in the year. I do love this opening title music, the spooky.
Yeah.
I always like that type of thing. You hear that sort of music in various Japanese.
And the other thing that I like too is that when they show the title card, that I really like how they just have that rock texture in the front and then have the title card show up.
Well, this was during the time, if you remember, the openings to a lot of the Godzilla movies, even starting with, I believe, King Kong versus Godzilla. They did it with King Kong versus Godzilla, where it was kind of an opening like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mothra had a similar opening. I don't think Mothra versus Godzilla Japanese had an opening like that. It's been a while since I've seen that one, just because there's not that much of a difference between that version and the US edit. And then Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster had an opening like that. Like, quite a few of the Kaiju films of this period had openings like that.
Mm-hmm. I know some of them kind of had that spacey looking type of thing where they had, I'm not sure what kind of texture it was, but it was kind of like a hollow foil sort of texture where they kind of maybe had some light kind of go around and had like display all the colors and stuff. That was pretty cool.
Monster Zero had an opening like that. As always, out on the spooky sea. That's a pretty loose wheel. I don't think that guy knows where he's going. Oh shit, I'm lost. I took a couple extra turns.
Where can I find someone to get directions? This,
as much as I like,
this sort of reminds me of the Return of Godzilla in the ways.
Kind of. I have to say though, at least this particular thing, it got a little dark there when the tentacle first came in the door. Um, I wish that could have been brightened up a bit. But I have to say, as cool as I find this opening, because it's a lot of fun, it's very goofy because there's no way like some giant octopus would have just somehow very quietly and sneakily would have, you know, um, like opened up a door without crashing the boat and all that fun stuff.
Well, maybe they just had the door open.
Bunch of idiots. Oh, this is the international dub. Not as good as the Titra one, which I think is the company that did the Henry Saperstein. And of course, Eiji Tsuburaya, a big fan of octopi. He tried using them as often as he could in many of his films and his TV shows at the time. He was a big fan of, I believe it was 1957. It came from Beneath the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fairly fun movie.
It's like, oh no, he was calling for his captain. I must leave before I get caught.
Yeah. I'm going to get court-martialed.
I don't want to go back to prison. I'm not going back to the slammer.
I do enjoy this little battle. Unfortunately, due to HD, I see too many strings on that octopus marionette.
Yeah, I kind of
It's
saw
still
some
pretty
there
dark,
too, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of how dark a lot of this is here.
Yeah, I can see it. See the strings right on the head there.
Yeah. That's a cool marionette. In fact, that may even be a similar marionette to what he used, like I think a couple years earlier for Ultra Q.
And King Kong vs. Godzilla.
That one I think was definitely different. Gosh, this is too dark, and I have the TV settings. Like, I made them really bright several years ago, and I still am like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Man,
People complain about the 2014 Godzilla movie.
Imagine you being in that ship being rocked by him like that.
There's no way he could have survived that. He was in that cabin. Like, he would have had to have had at least 1 foot out the door as Gyra was doing that and be jumping into the ocean. But even then, considering how violently that ship was being rocked, I would think that ship like could have clonked him in the head and like knocked him out or something.
Or just him flying all over that room to where he probably would have shattered quite a bit of bones.
I thought you were about ready to say throw him all over to where he shat himself. I probably would. I'd be like, oh.
I don't know how you can be sick from all of that. Besides being sick, you probably would have been like badly, like critically injured.
Probably gotten sick due to motion sickness. You saw how violently that thing was being tossed.
Well, not only that, but being critically injured from just that violently, Gyra violently shaking that boat the way he did. All I found was seaweed.
Happy belated birthday, Captain.
You say you wanted some seaweed? Here you go.
You wanted some weed? Here, have at it. And he chokes him to death on board.
Where'd you stash all the drugs?
Did you see other signs of the crew? Oh, yes. They got eaten.
Were you taking abstinence? Is that why you saw the green monster, or should I say green giant fairy?
Were you looking at nudies again? It's still amazing how he got away, but it's a fantasy film. I'm willing to let it go. They made two giant hands that only got used once each for that.
I'd like to know how much those cost per hand.
75% of the movie's budget.
Oh God.
The captain's. Oh, hey, I've been looking for that. Still fits wonderfully. And look, Converse sneakers. And they're my size.
Why are they so red? Well, that's just the trend nowadays with these teenagers.
But, sir, that's evidence. Nobody saw. My wife's got me on a strict allowance.
Those were my rag clothes I wear for every day when I had the day off.
And by the way, folks, we're having fun. We don't hate the movie by any stretch of the imagination. We just like to make people laugh, including ourselves. Oh my gosh, they dubbed Russ Tamblyn. Oh man. Oh no. I forgot about that.
I would like to know the reason why, even though you have some English-speaking actors in certain movies, why that they would have to resort to redubbing them.
I just lost it. Like there was one other movie where they had an American actor and they dubbed him. I want to say it was Nick Adams in one of the Kaiju movies he was in, but I'm not sure. Why? Why the fuck would you do that? That's like one of the dumbest things ever. Like you could have saved a line reading. You
Or
could
at
have
least
saved
could have
a
saved
writer.
some money by not hiring an additional person to do
No,
his.
I think these voice actors, a lot of them do multiple voices. But the fact though that you're probably paying this one person a little extra, like, oh, that's so dumb. Damn it, stop it.
Shakes it, opens it up, and then just squirts right in his face.
And then he gets really mad and he starts ripping people apart.
Takes a dump in his hands, then starts throwing poo all over the place.
I was trying to avoid scatological humor, but you already. Here's one of our favorite actors. That's a cool shot. I do like that. Because I don't think we've ever seen a shot like that during other Showa era monster films,
Well, they did.
in theory. The whole thing is that unless you see a body, you have to assume they're alive. I have to say, during this whole 2 months you've been moving, I have not watched any kaiju material whatsoever, and
The-
it's been kind of a nice reprieve just to kind of,
I did
just.
at least watch some. It was the more recent legendary versions on TNT,
Oh yeah.
like within the last couple of weeks. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, once in a while I'll put on some
they
TNT.
had Con Skull Island, and then they were showing was it King of the Monsters a couple times.
Yeah, TNT for the last year and a half or so has been doing that.
And then I was telling Kent before we got on that I finally saw Meg for the first time.
I still think that's a movie we should cover on here.
We'll
I have
see.
the book, but I haven't read it. Um, but I think it's a fun film. I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie, it's not the greatest thing you're ever gonna see, but it's a lot of fun, I think.
Mm-hmm. We'll see one of these days.
I've acquired a number of, well, I don't want to say a number, but I've acquired some other films
A
and
certain amount of
shows
skills.
uh, over the last like 6 months or so, and trying to get Jason to eventually figure out a way if he can find online or acquire some of these titles so that we can cover them at some point. We need to cover the Ultraman anime at some point. That's something that's been on for like what 2, 3 years and we haven't done.
Well, didn't we at least cover the first season?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
We had originally
Because
thought about covering it before you went on break, and then we decided
well,
not to.
we were gonna do that before originally when the second
Yeah.
season was gonna air sometime like
Oh, they
a
moved
few
it.
months
That's
ago.
why.
Yeah, cause until they moved it back to April next year.
Yeah, because it was supposed to come out, I think, in September.
I think it was August, I believe.
Well, regardless.
But anywho,
Just a minute, I got another actor in my throat. I'm Russ Tamblyn, and I don't approve this voice acting. I'm pretty sure that was a matte painting of Gorgeous, if it was.
this ain't Mount Everest.
That's good because I'm not dressed for it. That definitely is a matte painting. Still gorgeous.
Out of all the hikers, he's the only one that's like the nicest dressed person.
Well, when you look at any of those older films, 30s, 40s, and stuff, like the guys were always wearing like suits or sport jackets. That's how it always was.
Well, like in some of those films back in the day, if you're in this the Sahara or the African
Well,
wilderness and
yeah,
stuff, they'll have like those type of outfits and hats.
right, yeah. But I'm talking about like a movie like this. Like you see Kenji Sahara here. He's in a blazer and a tie and all that. Like, and if this movie were made today, you would not be seeing too many people in suits, if any. I like this sequence coming up here. I think in many ways, Godzilla versus Destroyer may have borrowed kind of the general element of this sequence to start off its movie.
Maybe. Well, and I would say some other movies too.
Well, yes. This is kind of creepy that even though it's happening during an overcast day, it's still kind of creepy because you just see this big creature off in the distance and heading your way. Just how it's shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a really cool miniature set of the airport. I think it's Haneda,
Yeah,
isn't
it
it?
is. It is Haneda because this was the main airport before they eventually did. Oh, what's the other airport that's kind of northeast of Tokyo? Let me
I
double
have no
check here.
clue.
Let me check here.
Tokyo International.
Let's see here. Yeah, because it's that new one's a bit of ways. Uh, oh, it's the Narita International Airport. It's in was
When
it
did it
the
open?
it's in the Chiba Prefecture.
When did it open?
Uh, oh, hold on.
When did it open? Come on, I want answers.
Let's see here.
Gyra's got a thing for the MILF here.
It opened in 1978,
Oh, okay.
May
I
20th.
was gonna say, maybe it was after '95 because you got Destroya taking place at the Haneda Airport.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, yummy. Oh, he's allergic. Vampire Gyra. It's a damn shame that they put all that work into that, and he only busted like part of it. And the whole thing was maybe shot for, I don't know, 45 seconds into the whole film. The crew afterwards probably had to just go in there and destroy it themselves. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the crew enjoyed it, but
Yeah. I wonder what they did afterwards. Maybe actually destroyed it or something.
they would have to, yes, because they would need that space to shoot other pieces of the film. Well, what do you believe? Do you believe in Santa Claus? Well, yeah. Well, then you're an idiot. Just because you believe in it doesn't mean it's real.
If you don't believe in Santa Claus, then you don't believe in the Tooth Fairy or the Easter Bunny.
Truth.
Or the green
Meditation work.
or the green absinthe fairy.
The green abstinence fairy?
Green
What?
absinthe.
What is
Absinthe.
that?
It's this green drink. It's like alcoholic and stuff. It's like
Oh.
made in
That
Europe.
fairy, I believe, because I'm sure you drink enough of her. You'll be seeing a lot of things.
Well, I actually haven't had it, but I've seen it and heard of it.
I still can't get over the fact they dubbed Russ Tamblyn. I can't get over that. It's like, why? The job was already done for you.
Well, maybe you should go to uh, the people that dubbed this movie and ask them why.
Well, I think this is the international dub, which I think like all of them, more or less, especially over the last like 30 years. I think once again they probably were done out of Hong Kong. The problem is though too, and part of it is because I think they just didn't think too highly of these films, and therefore when they did the dubbing, didn't do high quality recordings either. It's kind of hard to fully make out some of what they're saying because the stuff over time just kind of sounds a tad muffled.
Yeah, yeah. Because right now, I sort of decided to just put on the English subtitles just in case.
I'm like on the verge of doing that here too. In fact, let me bring that up here. Oh shit. Oh, okay. No. Why did you stop? Oh shit. Oh, now I'm probably behind.
Well, I stopped at 23:27 here.
There.
Are you at 23:29?
23, 34, 35,
Oh,
36, 37.
well, I'm at 33.
Okay, that's close enough. I don't know why it stopped when I wanted to bring it. I thought it was going to keep going.
Man, one of these days I want to get to Japan.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
Just walk through the streets of Tokyo, like late at night, even during the day.
I am a passenger.
Because like I've seen those walking YouTube videos I know I mentioned before
Yeah.
on the show, and it's just really interesting to just kind of see just from that perspective on like where in like where everything is at and how people kind of interact.
Yeah. I would like to go, but I COVID's got to really calm the fuck down before I even. And the highlight of the whole feature, ladies and gentlemen, Kip Hamilton, and the words got stuck, but yet somehow she's able to blurt them out.
At least they didn't dub her.
Yeah, of course they wouldn't.
Yet they don't dub her, but yet they had to dub Russ Tamblyn.
That'd be funny if they found someone who was a lifetime smoker and was maybe Kip Hamilton's age. However, because this person was such a heavy lifetime smoker, they sounded 40 years older than they actually were. The words get stuck in my throat. By the way, I do have the soundtrack to this movie, and yes, this song is on it.
I wouldn't be one bit surprised if it was.
And this is the official soundtrack from Toho Records that I have. It's not some burnt CD or some American release. It's the official Toho Records.
Well, when it comes from Toho, like a lot of CDs that you've had, I mean, they would basically add literally every song onto the CD, and like some of those can have like close to 100 songs on there.
Well, sort of. They would have what would be more or less like practice runs, so to speak, of some of the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
They did dub her here, though. They dubbed her there because she sounded differently in the Saperstein one when Gyra was picking her up.
Why, guys, why? I was trying to make a surprise entrance.
The most disappointing aspect of that is that she's not lying in a pool of blood there, because considering how far she fell, there's no way she would have survived.
You can maybe say those red light shapes on that stage, maybe that can be her blood right there.
They just get onto the platform, but yet they somehow miss the actual floor.
Like in organized shapes.
And then Russ Tamblyn comes into the frame and he goes, That's physics, folks. Dun, 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 dun.
It's like
I'm sure
you see this robe? Yeah, it was soaked in her blood.
that'd be funny if he just kind of like the Bridges of Madison County, just slowly opened up his robe, like out facing the city, and you just see a gentle breeze like fluttering his robe.
Oh, God.
And with all of that stupid stuff we just said, we probably lost every single person who had joined us for this commentary. Bridges of Madison County, bad physics, blood splatters. You guys are nuts.
If you don't get our humor, that's okay.
No, it's not okay. And here we go. We get some stock footage that had been used. Actually, no, not stock footage. I'm getting confused as far as what movie I'm in. That footage we just saw of the JSDF maser cannons and all that is new to this movie, but would end up getting used quite a bit in many Godzilla films, at least.
And one of the scenes when the maser cannons are being used against a guy right here when he goes behind the trees.
That too. That particular sequence got used in fact, that sequence got used in back-to-back movies in Godzilla vs. Gigan and Godzilla vs. Megalon.
Yeah. And I think it was probably used in maybe in a couple other movies too. Maybe non-Godzilla movies.
I don't think so. I think it was this one and those two. The footage of the self-defense force rolling in, that footage would end up being recycled in Megalon and Destroy All Monsters.
Be funny one of those Jeeps, the way that they're kind of really jiggling up and down and stuff, like all of a sudden it's like one of them just jiggles so much and bounces off the road.
Starts just bouncing.
And then an explosion goes off.
You hear a guy yelling in the background, "Oh my god, my legs, they're gone. My arm is over there, and then they came, and my legs are over there, and in my head, oh god."
How am I going to do
everybody
this?
Else.
Gyra's like, how am I going to do this?
Gyra's just got his hands on his hips and he's tapping one of his feet. Like, seriously, dude.
It's like, you can just maybe go in between because there's a lot of space in between those fires.
Well, it's like even the first time we saw Godzilla versus Megalon. Remember when Megalon encircled Godzilla and Jaguar in that flame? And you and I, even the first time we saw it, I was 8 and you were 6, and you and I were like, they could easily just step over those flames.
Gyra's like, yummy.
Bacon.
Ham.
Get my Christmas ham.
Oh, shit! You got me! I don't want to go back to the Slimer!
It sounded like you were about ready to bust out in song there.
You can't catch me on the ginger... never mind.
Wrong story. I'm glad I had the closed captioning on because I
same
make out
here.
what that guy was saying on the radio. It sounded like he was going.
Yeah, same here. I was just about to say the same thing too.
All of a sudden, we're in a Charlie Brown cartoon.
Wah, 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 wah.
Mount Operation X. I'm sorry, sir. I'm married. You idiot.
This ain't X from outer space.
By the way, that copter pilot we just saw, I think that footage may have been used in Hedora.
It's been a while since I've last seen that movie, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, same here. There's a Hedora's not really a movie I watch all that frequently.
Back
And all
heathen!
those individual trees like they put in there. Oh gosh, it's so dark you can't make out anything. I want the fans to start coming out and complaining about this version of War of the Gargantuas because my gosh, there are moments you can't see jack poop. We're trying to be PG with about 5 F-bombs per show, so we can keep our PG rating.
So you actually been counting how much F-bombs you've been doing?
Yeah. We're up to 3 right now. Can you imagine being like Haruo Nakajima and like you've been set on fire how many times and will be set on fire how many more times until you retire? Like I would after like the second film would have been like, that's it, I'm retiring.
Well, particularly with the Gyro suit. I mean, look at that. It's like some of it's sort of on fire there. I mean, that's more flammable compared to the Godzilla suit.
Well, that's because you got a bunch of hair or fur, whatever they used.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Although it's still, in my opinion, nowhere near as bad as Godzilla X Megaguirus, where what was it, the Heron or whatever that fighter jet thing was?
Oh, like the airdrop.
Yeah. Slammed into the Godzilla spines.
I remember you and I watched a video that I think that they had behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Of it, where it was just completely on fire.
I kept it in. It's just like, oh shit! Like the direct Tezuka, knowing him, got it. It's perfect. And he's the biggest sweetheart of a director too.
He's like, masterpiece with the chef's kiss. I outdid myself.
I now can die happy. Because I set something on fire. He's a pyro, as we find out. He's like, ah!
In my first ever Godzilla movie, I succeeded.
Yeah, little does everybody know that Miyazaki Tezuka is like a major flamer. Like he just at Chief Fest a few years back, he like every time he walked up to you, he would always put his hand around you, and then all of a sudden you would be smelling something burn. You'd turn around and you realize he would set your shirt sleeve on fire. Like no, he didn't do that. And then you get this grin on his face, like. We made fun of Tezuka on this podcast. It's just amazing stupid shit we come up with. I don't think we really talk too much about the movies. Like we just go off on these tangents. Like, oh yeah, by the way, in Godzilla Mothra King Ghidorah.
Well, let's get back to this. Quick! We'll flush the rabbit out. Boy, that's a lot. That's a lot of. That's going to be a lot of water to flush out a rabbit.
That would be funny if this movie was all about like trying to get some damn rabbit out of a hole.
Boy, that'd be quite the rabbit there. Probably Bugs Bunny.
And you get like the rabbit, like, like getting all angry and kind of going.
Maybe it's the rabbit from the Monty Python Holy Grail movie.
Oh, it's been years since I've seen that.
Alright, I can camouflage within these trees.
That'd be funny if
They
he
won't
stood out.
they won't be able to find me here.
That'd be funny if he stood out in an open meadow and just stood still like this and was like,
Or
"You're not gonna find me."
and maybe just have like a couple branches.
I'm the lone tree. I'm a sequoia.
I'm a redwood tree.
In Japan, that doesn't work that way.
I'll make it work.
I'm an invasive species. And he starts prancing around with like tree branches in his hand. I'm an invasive species.
Oh man.
Bunch of dumb shit. Oh boy. People are probably like, when are you guys ever going to take these movies seriously? It's like, I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, we do take a lot of things seriously. We wouldn't talk about them on our actual show, but I mean,
it's only in the
sometimes
commentaries we make fun of stuff.
sometimes you just gotta have some fun, instead of just being too serious all the time.
Why so serious?
Yeah, just have Jun Tasaki there, just kind of reining his hands there with the white gloves. Why so serious?
The funny thing is that every time we do these commentaries, regardless, did you hear that? It says inaudible on the closed caption. Even the closed caption doesn't know what's being said.
What the heck?
Even the closed caption's like, what the hell?
And then it says, man, fire it up, inaudible.
Yeah, see? That's sad. But like I was saying a second ago, every time we do a commentary, even if it's a movie that's 2.5 hours, boy, these things fly because we're having so much fun.
Well, and where they had the scene there of the two army troops, they're putting one of the like electric things in the river. It almost looked like that they almost tripped over with one of them.
Probably about did, yeah. You'll see Sir Inaudible. It's like, Sir. Just, anybody who thought we were making this stuff up earlier, even the closed caption can't even make out some of the stuff.
Whenever you get around to watching the Criterion Collection version on HBO Max, if you don't believe us, take a time one of these times and watch it on HBO Max with the closed caption on. I just like how Gyra just cringes up like that. It's like, they found me.
I saw that too. I'm like, he was kind of like happy. He was like,
it's like, oh my god, I'm like a kid in a candy shop.
Humans, yummy.
Chocolate covered humans.
Yeah. And like it says, boom. You see that?
Yeah.
Boom. Another one. Boom. Oh, that is funny. This closed captioning thing is probably funnier than
and then you have the closed caption of it's like screeching and then man yelling.
Oh, the closed captioning just added another layer of humor to this whole thing. Sir, inaudible. I have to say though, like, look again, folks. This is just us having fun. We're not making fun of the movies here, but although occasionally we are making fun of a few things, but we love these films. But I have to say, like, again, all the miniature work, the putting together, just the incredible map paintings, that Haneda Airport we saw earlier. I mean, all of this is just spectacular. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
clearly see why this was the golden age of Toho Kaiju.
Yeah. Or any other kaiju movie for that matter. Because I think this is right around the same year Gamera was made.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the first camera. 66, which was when this film was produced and released. I think 66 is by and large considered to be that final year of golden era films.
Or at least I would say round 69 for me.
Of course, you would say that.
Of course I did.
Did you see the message I had typed in, like, at the top of the show?
I have not got around to it here.
Trees crashing.
Warring.
Okay, so it was talking about roaring and trees crashing, but then it doesn't do it again here. Like, did the person doing the closed captioning just decide, hell?
Probably. Or just say, like, trees crackle. Snap, crackle, and pop.
Instead of just doing, words for the closed captioning, they just bring up the Rice Krispie trio of elves. Like, here you go. This is what's happening.
Just put the cereal box where the caption area is.
Boom.
with the John Madden sound effect. Boom. Tefactin Tenactin.
Yeah, I was just about to say Tenactin. Did you see there, like, they for a split moment forgot to put the exclamation marker at the end of calling HQ and then they inserted it?
I didn't quite catch it.
That army commander is a little too happy to be, like, killing something. And then all the blood and scar effects on the suit.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was interesting, as we'll see here coming up, like, they'll start just blasting him in the face.
Yeah.
Like, right
or
here.
Like going down, like with half of his body in the river. Water splashing.
Inaudible.
And then man yelling again.
Music playing. That's so funny. Like, how is a deaf person going to be able to understand that? Like, okay, music. Mm-hmm. What is music? Like, what is that? What does that sound like?
Or like when the inaudible one comes up, it's like, what the hell did they actually say?
Even the movie doesn't know.
They'll just probably have to use your own imagination what they said.
Murr. 4.
Maybe say, fire it up, fucker.
All right, so that's 4. We can only use one more to keep our PG rating.
Oh, God. More like PG-13.
We'll go screaming. This closed captioning stuff is hilarious. Oh, I love this stuff. We got to do this more often, I guess. Let's rewatch all the movies we have watched, and this time have the closed caption.
You gotta be kidding me. We're like 55 episodes of commentary. You want to do 55 more? Or 54 more?
Did you see that man, parentheses, on speaker?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yep.
It's like, it's got to tell you, man, oh, wait a minute. He's on the speaker. The old one. Man on speaker. Sonda.
Excuse me. Birds chirping. From the ocean. That's where he came from.
That'd be funny if Kenji Sahara just was like,
What, you dumb? What?
that's one I could have many commentaries on. Oh man, I love that movie so much. I love it.
For those that don't know what we're talking about the like Texarkana version of Gamera 2, the dubbing.
It's on the latest release from Arrow.
Oh, really? Nice. Nice. And I think it's on YouTube too.
That's awesome. Like every week we need to post that on our page just to remind people that it's out there and that they should watch it. And the award for greatest movie of all time goes to Lake Texarkana Gamera for the 15th straight year.
It's like, if you see that movie once in the Lake Texarkana version, you won't be able to watch that movie the same way again.
No, I cannot. Like, it's hard for me to watch Gamera 2. Like in a serious setting again. Like I can't, because all the funny dialogue keeps popping back in my head. And in fact, I've seen the Lake Texarkana version more than I have the
Same here.
actual film itself.
But I know one of these days we're gonna have to, both review and commentate that movie one of these days.
Well, yeah, we already did the Texarkana version of it, but
well, I'm talking about like
the actual movie.
The actual movie itself.
Yeah. Let me pull up like what comment. I know we still got a lot of commentaries left. I haven't looked at this in like 3 months because someone decided he just wanted to be lazy.
Not lazy, had to move.
Like I said, you just turned all your furniture around in the same space and made it look like you moved.
Shut up.
According to this, and I don't think I even updated it with some of the other films I've recently gotten, like Secret of the Telegian, which I got like, I think 4 months ago maybe. At this very moment, without adding Secret of the Telegian, there are 50 movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough where if we were to do a podcast every other week next year, that basically would take us all through next year. And we still probably would have 1 or 2 movies left to do, because if we're going to do the end of the year special like we typically do,
mm-hmm.
That'd be funny if he just put that in his mouth and chewed on it. And was like, yep, was recently here, all right.
What does it taste like?
And then he
Tastes
goes,
like
open your
hair.
mouth, and then he into her mouth, and then she chews on it, and Kenji's like, let me try that, and she goes into his mouth. they do a little spit swapping.
God.
Of Gyra tissue.
Ugh.
The most disappointing aspect of this version of the movie is, again, the fact that they dubbed Tamblin.
I like the expression of that the old professor's or the old doctor's face. He's like he has that expression. He's like, "What the hell are you talking about, dude?"
That guy is so advanced in age. He's just like, whatever. What the fuck? I don't care anymore.
Well, that's your fifth one there.
Yeah. Be careful. That'd be funny if an actual like character in one of these movies, like that old professor, was just like, "That's it. I've had enough of your dumb shit." And he just walks off.
Yeah. Now they got woman yelling, but I was just thinking here, like in one of the scenes there where they were flying over the like the mountains in the forest. You know, you kind of overlooking that and the water. All of a sudden, it's like you start to go closer. It's like, what's happening? And then you look around, and then you see that the helicopter propellers aren't working. It's like, oh, that's why we're crashing.
And then they zoom in on Russ Tamblin, and he goes, "Isn't this fun?"
Up next, reading Rainbow.
They did some bad grammar there. They capitalized a letter that they didn't need to.
Full of young people.
You and I, we're just rolling old farts. We're tumbleweeds that just happen to smell like old people.
They have one closed caption that says Chuckles.
Chuckles the old fucker.
Well, that's your sixth. You went over.
Yep, we're in PG-13 now. Now we got 4 left. PG-13. Again, people probably left this commentary like a half hour ago. That'd be funny if that twig that guy's twirling around there, he decided to just chew on it, and he realized about 10 minutes later it was poison ivy.
Or actually, he just whips around in front of the woman's face.
She gets like the scar across her face, and like her eye all turns white. Like she just has a bad eye for the rest of her life.
And then people are like, "What the hell did you do that for?" It's like, I don't know. It was just a natural habit of doing that.
And then the rest of them turn around. And they go, kill, and they close in on him and they grab him and they throw him over the side.
And then he goes, "Ah!"
Did you see that? Oh, I've never noticed it before. Holy shit, Russ Tamblin had a twig in his hand. He turned around and he goes, and then turned around and ran again. He had to stop, turn around, throw the twig down, and then go back to running.
I did not see that.
I had never noticed that until now.
Grunting doctor.
That'd be funny. He slid down, he tore his pants. He's like, "Ah, man, I just bought these. Hold on, Akemi. Good thing I brought my sewing kit here." And he starts stitching there on the ledge while she falls to her doom.
like the pants rip right in the butt crack area. He's trying to stitch it. Imagine him trying to do that.
What are you doing? I'm stitching up the pants where the crack is. Do you have to do that right now? I got a shit stain in my underwear.
It's like he's trying to do this.
And he keeps poking himself. He goes, "Ow, ow, ow."
It's like, ah, shit.
Oh, this is stupid. Oh man. Oh man, we have lost all semblance of credibility on everything. Oh man, that was so stupid. Oh man.
You done?
No. Oh man.
Boy, I can't believe that they really capitalized a gimme.
Oh. I think her name is Akemi, but not a Gimi. I've never heard of a Gimi. That doesn't sound like it's Japanese. The
It's
closed
like, I broke
captioning
my
person,
back.
I think, got that wrong. Hotel Mount. Oh, I thought it said Hotel Mefre. Like it says Hotel Mount Fuji. Hotel Mefre. The guy didn't care. It's like, I don't know, name it Mefre. Uh-oh, here we are getting ready for the actual war.
Boy, Gyra just kind of blends right in with the mountain there.
It'd be funny if Santa came around and grunting, and he's like, "Oh, and like, where is he?" Like he loses Gyra, and Gyra's right
And
there.
then Gyra's like, peekaboo!
And he's like, he gives him a heart attack. I like this. This is kind of funny. Like Santa just slowly pulls a tree out, and Gyra just stares over. He's like, "Whatever, dude."
Santa's like, you son of a bitch.
That'd be funny. This Gargantua with a gimpy leg hobbles over and just smacks him at the tree.
Hey, dumbass, get up.
After all I did for you, yeah, you fed me people. I can't believe we're at that point in the movie already. Like I said, time flies when you're being.
Well, we're about 3/4. We're getting close to 3/4 of the way through the movie here.
This is crazy, dude. Like every time you and I do one of the, even if the movie's 2.5 hours, these just fly.
Well, we got, according to this here, you got about 27 minutes left of the movie.
People screaming. Interposing voices. Man. The man is capitalized. That was the commander earlier who was all too happy to be killing something. That's what he's gonna be called now, the commander who was all too happy to be killing something. Oh, I thought it said enjoy all your weapons. Enjoy all your weapons.
Enjoy all weapons at your disposal.
Oh, I will, sir.
Gunfire. Gyra doing his daily cross country running.
I do CrossFit. I'm one of those jackasses. He seems to like it now. Ooh, how kinky. I think the brown. I just realized the green one. Meh, the brown one. Meh. I like how he just folded his hands like that.
He's like this.
That'd be funny if, as like a Jun Tazaki was like, "Okay, jerk off. No need to be an asshole about it."
What, you dumb?
Well, yes.
It would have been funny if that police car just crashed right in that stone
The
rail
same
line.
thing. I was like, "Let's go, let's go."
Grunting music playing.
And see, to everybody, like, for example, who's making a fuss that Mill Creek is no longer releasing the Ultraman stuff onto Blu-rays, at least, for the foreseeable future. As we've seen multiple times throughout this film, the blue screen stuff shows up so much more frequently with this real high def um, cut of the film than it does if you did standard definition and just did your best to clean the movie up.
Mm-hmm.
Like for Return of Godzilla, I don't watch the Blu-ray of that anymore because, as I've told you before, there's this scene where Godzilla is walking through downtown Tokyo, and I never realized it until I watched the Blu-ray version of it. All those buildings around him were put in post-production. And for years watching on VHS and then on one of the Kraken DVDs, none of that showed up. But on the Blu-ray, because it's high def, that showed up, and it just killed it for me. I'm like, no, because that looked so cheap.
They talk about like the spread of the cells and stuff, probably with all the explosions and everything. It would have been nice if they would have done another sequel.
Yeah, well, I think that was a theory. They didn't necessarily know if more cells had been spread because, as you know, physics and just natural geography, geographic rules get broken at the end of this movie, in which a volcano magically appears in Tokyo Bay and swallows the both of them up. So therefore, no more cells can. Although, like, I think Tamblyn even said at one point when they were firing on Gyra with the masers and rockets and all that they were afraid chunks of the cells were getting blown off and could potentially Mighty Morphin Power Ranger into more Gyras.
Speaking of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, IDW is doing a five part miniseries comic on Godzilla versus Power Rangers.
I'm sorry, I'm nowhere near as excited as all these other people are. Part of it is because I mean I'm okay on Power Rangers. I loved it the most when I was like an 8 or 9 year old. Um,
I think
but
right up until the movie back in '95 came out.
yeah, but the
It's
thing
like,
is though too, like when you think about Godzilla and Power Rangers, like in theory that sounds cool, but when you really start thinking more about it, it's like that's not even a contest. That just isn't.
not even with the Zords.
No. The, most of the kaiju would just rip through them. They'd sneeze and those Zords would go down. That's Ipe from Ultra Q. Again, some really awesome miniatures here. This shot of Gyra in the distance,
Mm-hmm.
and this large set with buildings that are as many of them are as tall. A few are taller than Nakajima.
Yeah. I wonder what the scaling size that is. It's like he's calling through the phones like he's angry.
That'd be fun. It's kind of funny because Tazaki knew exactly which bridge he had destroyed, and it's like how many bridges are probably throughout Japan and the Tokyo area.
And exactly where it was on the map.
Man, he must be an oracle. Oh, shit. I thought.
How you gonna do that?
She brings out a duck call.
Or the Dragon Zord sword.
You had one of those. And I always thought it was funny when they played it, and then the actor still was fiddling around with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I remember having that long ago.
Panting. Silly nut. She goes.
Silly nut, tricks are for kids.
No, he goes silly nut, and then she responds, "No, that's what we call you."
And then kicks him in nuts.
He's like, just because it's twisted up doesn't.
Oh.
A bunch of colorful cars there.
Like there's one vehicle that's yellow and red.
Yeah. I spy with my 2 eyes. I was gonna drive that one. She's so excited. It's like, Doctor, look, a deer in the distance. A Kami, this isn't a deer, but look. I think really what they would say would be the monster is approaching, not the monster is coming.
Mm-hmm.
shoes make a lot of clonking sounds. Let's listen to their shoes. They got noisy shoes.
It's like, oh, what's the name of those, Dutch wooden shoes?
Clogs?
Clogs, yeah, I think so. Sound like those.
I remember when I was a kid, like when I was 4, I was like, you don't have good shoes unless they make a sound every time you make a step. Now
Or
I'm like,
we,
I don't want my shoes to make any noise.
or have lights.
Yeah. Or the pump.
Oh, yeah.
The cool scarring and makeup effects on the face. I guess it's not true about the hands. They get used a couple more times because Kip Hamilton got picked up in one, and now here. See, this second time in a movie where he drops a girl from a reasonable height onto a stone floor, she not only survives, but she's not
Well,
sitting in even a
to be more
decent pool of
specific,
blood.
steps this time where there's edges.
Well, yeah, like she could have cracked her skull open. I mean, I know that's nitpicky stuff when you're talking about a movie about two giant, like, Frankensteinian ape creatures, but it's just kind of like certain elements of disbelief can only take you so far. It's like, and when I see someone from that height get dropped onto a stone floor, it's like, I find it interesting that Sanda doesn't want to fight anymore. I've always kind of thought what changed his mind.
It's like I
Is
don't
he
want
gonna
to
be
do.
okay?
It's like I don't want to do this.
Like, is he okay with him
Or
eating people now, or
it's like don't do this. It's like don't be here, bro.
So I'm going to show you a picture of a movie I saw back in September. I own this as one of those like 50s sci-fi movie collection sets. And I want you to tell me something here. Hold on, let me get a good picture of it here if I can find it.
How are you gonna show it?
I'm going to send you a link. If I can find a good shot of it here. That's not what I wanted. Okay, can I... Is there a good... Okay, I think this is a good picture of it, maybe. About as good as I think I'm going to find. Okay, take a look at its design. It doesn't come off as that clear in the movie. It's usually in shadows most of the time, but you get kind of the general outline.
Mm-hmm.
Look up this for anybody else listening or watching. Look up the Snow Creature 1954 movie. You see kind of like the Yeti type of monster for that movie. Looks a little similar to a brown Gargantua, don't you think?
Yeah, maybe.
Movie that's dull as fuck, dude.
Number 7.
It was needed.
I daren't. Is that even a word? Daren't?
No. No, it's not a word.
helicopter blades whirling.
Yeah.
Time is running out. You guys are hitting buildings where there's people in them. What you doing? It's like you're really missing a mark there. And then now they put the caption up towards the top there. Now down at the bottom.
Oh, we may have to watch this movie. It's free on YouTube from the studio. That's that's what it is. It actually looks pretty stupidly fantastic.
The other one that we at least have to see is Haruman, which is that Thai movie. This kind of this Thai Japanese movie. It's made by Sampo-san.
I'll tell you which one we do.
Here, I'll have to find it here.
By the way, more cool miniature work here at the docks. And I'm not kidding you.
Let's see here. But yeah, I'll just send you the link to the search results. Oh yeah, that.
Yeah. I'm not joking. This is mildly entertaining.
There.
The unfortunate thing is you don't see too much, but the rest of the
it's
like the acting's actually pretty
decent. It's Hanuman versus Seven Ultraman. It was made by Sampo Sands. It's like crazy as hell.
Oh, is that one of those re-altered films?
It's like one of those bootleg ones.
Kind of like, what was it? What's the one I got? Like Jumborg Ace versus Hanumajin or something like that?
Yeah, Hanuman. Yeah.
Oh. That thing looks wild. Might have to.
Yeah, and there's like, if you click on videos, there's at least a few that are full length. Yeah, and then there's Hanuman versus 5 Kamen Riders.
Oh, jeez. Gyra is just kicking Sanda's butt, even though Sanda, is the bigger one and supposedly maybe even the stronger one. Crash.
Here comes the army to save the day.
Mighty Mouse. I mean,
Water splashing.
the sets and everything here, for this movie are just absolutely gorgeous. And for a movie that's at the tail end of the golden age, it's just it still is incredible that there was a good enough budget to put together all these miniatures and what have you. Hey, you're joining us like right at the tail end.
Mm. Lasers whirling. Oh yeah, and this is the other thing that's like,
Yeah, right on the back.
having to have a boat being dropped on you. Funny, just like floats that thing of flowers just right across her face.
She's so allergic, she just like her face balloons.
Well, the one funny thing about it was that when she woke up after, being dropped and stuff, it looked like she was entirely fine there. But then now with that scene there that we just saw, it's like she's got bruises and like bloodied at the head there. It's like, what the hell happened between then and now?
It would have been funny, like she was fine and all that in the subway, but then in that scene at the hospital, she's in a full body cast.
Yeah. I was like, what did you guys do between then and now?
They like dropped her about 8 times. They got so angry, like they just to get their frustration out, they whacked her body up against the side of the building.
Oh, jeez.
Just this is bad day. Yeah, you know, as mentioned before, and I'm sure many other people have heard about this, if not even thought about it. This whole random thing about a volcano just showing up in Tokyo Harbor,
Rumbling.
yeah, like that in and of itself, I think is a greater danger than two Gargantuas.
It's just like the movie. It's just like the movie Volcano.
But see, that was stupid fun. Like putting a volcano. By the way, I did watch that like earlier in the year. It's still not too bad. But just having it randomly show up in Tokyo Harbor and all that, it's a terrible way to end the movie. They could have figured something else out. I mean, for crying out loud, they've already been shooting rockets and the like at these creatures to where they've been concerned about tissue spreading. It's like, what would it matter if they just eventually blasted them to death?
Yeah. Kenji Sahara just bends down and then asks her, "Are you alive?"
Tell me I have to do my daily freshness test. How is this? And he sticks his hand
Rumbling.
I will say, though, that's my biggest complaint of this movie is how it ends. I think it's a cheap way out, not to mention it's just a ridiculous way out.
Well, and
And so
that's
that,
is the end.
yeah, the end. That is War of the Gargantuas, ladies and gentlemen, here.
All right. Get all situated here.
Yeah. All right, are we back on?
Oh yeah, we've been back on for like for 10 seconds or so.
We're going live. Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's been about 3 years since I saw this particular version of War of the Gargantuas, and the most disappointing thing is the dubbing of Russ Tamblyn.
Yeah.
That was highly unnecessary. Otherwise, though, an incredible film. I know we goofed around, but that's kind of what we do. But again, like we complimented a lot of times about some of the acting and then mainly a lot of the miniature work. A film that still holds up, like almost 50 years later. In fact, over 50 years later. Man.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
And I just I love this movie. Like I said, really the only true complaint I have is how it ends and just the ridiculousness of a volcano showing up in Tokyo Harbor like that. It's unrealistic. It's just totally unrealistic. Would never happen. And that's just my biggest complaint. Like the suspension of disbelief is out the door, for me at that point. So
not only that,
otherwise,
yeah,
basically near perfect film.
Yeah, not only that, but as you stated, the dubbing of Russ Tamblyn, and then a little bit of the that gal that sings there too. So after she gets done singing there, but yeah, and then what also made it the worthwhile was the closed captioning of the film itself. But
and with that,
yeah.
Thank you for watching or listening to us. We will keep everyone posted as far as the date for our year-end special. If you are listening to this, however, like a year and a half from now, ignore this whole part of the commentary because it's not applicable.
Or just listen to the next episode, which will be the year-end extravaganza special.
Yeah, we have no idea what date yet, but we will keep everyone posted via social media.
Yep, as you can probably see, we're on podcasts, audio versions such as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and TuneIn. And then you can watch us on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, and DLive as well. And as far as audio, iHeartRadio. That's one thing that I forgot about. But yeah, otherwise, can't think of anything else. And we'll keep you.
We're on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure if I'm going to try one more time with that. If we still can't get anything live on that, then we're going to probably have to find a replacement for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, YouTube is fun, though.
Yeah, you gotta love it.
Fun in more ways than one.
All right.
Thank you so much. We'll see you here in like a week and a half, 2 weeks.
All right. Catch you guys on the flip side.